The series Autistic Radio Model at Professional Conferences is sponsored by BILD and the Restraint Reduction Network. Hello and welcome to Autistic Radio. Harry and myself from Autistic Radio were invited to create a co-production with a professional group that many in autism world will see as problematic because some of the members of the group have an association with behaviourist science. However, we came away from our experience at the RNN Build conference in Liverpool, where we were in two separate co-productions with the organisation, and our direct experience is very different from those prejudices. Harry and myself had the opportunity to be representing a renegade, punk rock, totally independent autistic group who have created their own model inside a professional conference without restriction. We had the opportunity to record with both the presenters and the organisers and also those who were there to listen. If we could have found organisations more locally to us over the last few years that behaved in the same way as BILD and the RNN network, I believe that progress would have been faster for us as Autistic Radio. I can contrast our experience, which I see as the gold standard at BILD, with previous 2 years' experience with something called the Autism Network in Scotland. Led by Richard Ibbotson of Ask Richard, the Autism Network turned out to be an experience that taught us about what not to do rather than what can be achieved. It feels to me that for the first time, a number of professional groups are coming to Autistic Radio valuing the equality in the communication, an eye-to-eye communication with us as a group. I would hope that old-fashioned, out-of-date processes like the Autism Network and some of the groups in Scotland that I'm still involved with will move beyond where they are, but I'm not hopeful. If any group in Scotland wishes to come up to the standard of what we've received, please contact us, because we are here to cooperate with you and co-produce with you. How did you feel, just putting you on the spot there, Harry, about what we received at the conference?
I felt very positive and still feel very positive about the whole experience. Because when you go to a conference like that, full of professionals, full of different, just the professional side of things, and because of the experience we've had before, I just wasn't really sure how it was going to go. If it was going to be patronising, if it was going to just be a kind of uncomfortable experience. But actually was so positive that I relaxed a lot quicker than expected. It was very inclusive. It was very... There never seemed to be hierarchy, which I've felt that we've come against before. But we were very welcomed. We were part of the whole programme at the same level as everyone else. And listening to the speakers, the people that talked to us, I just felt it was a good experience all round and worth the hard work that yourself put into it, Jules, as well as myself. That includes the travel, the accommodation, and the planning in our own meetings well in advance. So very positive, and to have opportunities falling on from the conference itself. How do you feel, Jules?
Emotionally, I feel a little bit overwhelmed because you've been banging your head against a brick wall for so long to get some kind of equitable inclusion in things. And when they were offered it, and when so many opportunities come from the discussions with the different professionals coming to find us at the workshops and make possibilities within their organizations of co-productions with us, it's a sudden avalanche of inclusion in comparison to that grind of pretense that we've experienced before, that speaking about inclusion whilst also stopping it happening that has happened to us in the past. There's no possibly could follow up every potential co-production that was muted, and I'm sure a lot there were running away with their own enthusiasm when they heard and saw what we were doing, and they perhaps were over-promising, and we will forgive them for that, because enthusiasm that creates over-promising is understandable. We already have one co-production that has started out that looks as though it might bear fruit over a period of time. It's a kind of vindication, isn't it? Because in the past, we have engaged with professional groups, and when they have come to fall short, we have withdrawn and said, look, we're going our separate ways. This doesn't fit. It isn't good enough. And holding on for something that came closer to perfection has turned out to be the best way forward. The most powerful thing we have possibly done in the past is to say no to half measures. I don't know if this organisation will continue to work with us in the future, or whether we will find more. But I still feel good about saying no to poor practice as a compromise in the past.
I totally agree with that.
I was going to ask briefly, what do you think has changed? But it's quite a large subject and time is of the essence, so we might have to part that one for later. Something has changed. And what it is probably you just stuck to your guns and presented the authentic Autistic Radio, and it's bore fruit.
Listening to Jules doing the presentation and doing the introduction about who we were, what we were doing at the conference, and to welcome people, it was done in a reasonable way, and it just shows you that we were in the right to say no to the half measures and the half-arsed kind of attitudes from some of the organisations, which disappointed now it turned out, considering some of the people involved. So it was good to see all that effort bearing fruit, with Jules talking as the introduction and talking clear and talking fair. Because I think others have went defensive because they felt they've been attacked, even though we were just being fair. We felt we were not being fair towards us. It was great to experience the being there and seeing it come together as it did.
Is there any geographical significance here between, say, the separation between Scotland and England? It's just a thought.
No, look, my mother was from Scotland, from the borders. My father was from London. I'm a mixed race child. This is not about nationalism. It's just about finding the right organisation, really. There might be organisations in Scotland that are just as inclusive and open that we haven't come across. They just haven't found us yet. This organisation appears to have had the right policies before we ever came along. We didn't create the policies. We just found them to have the right policies. I've written a letter to one of our original allies in the autistic revolution, Andrew Swartfigger. I might read it as part of this podcast. Dear Andrew Swartfigger of PBS, Positive Behavioural Support Group. Someone says something nice to you, it can be a boost if others who respect you know about that too. So I'm copying in two of your colleagues. I've arrived back from the BILD RNN conference. The experience was overwhelming in a good way. Establishing Autistic Radio and Autistic Association with my colleagues has been a long, hard slog for me, I've been volunteering my energy to Autistic Radio while being resisted by the establishment for some years now. It is more challenging than developing any of my businesses in the past. The progress within the autism profession field is achingly slow. The inequality in the communication within the world of autism seems uniquely wide to me. Previously in business, I had never felt any disadvantage. Disadvantage appeared when I started dealing with the professionals aligned to autism. This recent experience at the RNN conference, organised by BILD, was a gold standard in the equity in communication, something that we have been defining here at Autistic Radio, defining what equity in the communication might mean. It's also a gold standard in the execution of 2 co-productions. A gold standard as a seat at the table. A gold standard in the inclusion of the neurodivergent. Many people there who talk to me quietly about their own experiences of their own neurodivergent, and yes, they were professionals in the field too. A gold standard in representation. The employed people there were neurodivergent. Gold standard, as Harry has already expressed, as a safe space for us to participate as neurodivergent people. People who are trying to make me feel comfortable rather than imposing what they thought comfortability might be. I thought they were very sensitive at understanding and holding back and being helpful sometimes by just letting me be. The gold standard in the respect for and the acceptance of expressions of autistic identity. There were plenty of other people who were confident enough to express themselves as neurodivergent people in their manner, in their clothing, in the way they were about, without it being a performance. The past had led me to consider lowering my ambition for these aims when I'm dealing with Autistic Association and Autistic Radio. But now the top end of expectation has been surpassed. I've been offered more than we have been asking for in this circumstance. The radio model workshops that developed from our co-production in Newcastle were very well received. Some participants were already listeners to Autistic Radio, and they were looking to explore the Autistic Radio model in a specific project for them to develop. During the conference, a number of co-productions were suggested, and they may be explored. A contact sought me out because 3 different professionals who had listened in Ireland had recommended us separately in quick succession. So it just shows that that we're making some headway there. We're able to give open access to one organisation when they came to us to use the recordings that we have in our library in training for them. The root of this hoped-for inclusion has benefited from you, Andrew Swartfigger, and your engagement with us to communicate with us as part of your association with the UK Society for Behaviour Analysts. I think your intentions are trustworthy. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for networking us. You are part of the autistic revolution. Autistic Jules.
It was the reflection of a journey that we've went and the appreciation we have with Andrew Swartfigger and others. We've come a long way.
Really glad you brought up the archive as library, as a resource. We were not the comparison between business and working with the services and the differences, but also a very practical resource, an information resource, which is sometimes essential to business practice. You know, that thing you mentioned about experience in business and your experience in the autistic advocacy world for further discussion.
After all this time, to actually be able to say something so positive about an autism professional out there. We've been introduced to more people. The way we have managed to get what we see as the gold standard at a conference has come from support by the UK Society of Behaviour Analysts and other organisations in PBS, whereas it has not come from the organisations that we worked for in the past that seemed so open. I hope that might change, and I would invite anybody who has ever worked with us in the past that wants to rectify my opinion to come and work with us again and work with us. Make it possible this time.
We're having a conversation. There's elements in the autistic community who won't even entertain the conversation. And a lot of, I think, the charitable fronts are economically and are, to a certain extent, being defunded. So the conversation has to take place, I think, within what you were hinting at earlier as a business environment world, isn't it?
To our experience at this conference is that we have decided to go well beyond the remit that was offered to us. And the directors and the trustees of the charity are going to match the funds, BILD and the RNN network placed with us to make that co-production happen, to extend that into a series of podcasts that go out and represent BILD and the RNN network. A practical thing that we can do, and fitting thank you for this one time in our lives that we were included equally in the conversation around autism.
We speak our words, we listen.
We speak our words, we listen.
We speak our words, we listen.
We speak our words, we listen.